Okay. Good evening and welcome to this December 6th, 2022 meeting of the Manhattan City Commission, and welcome to everyone. The first item on the agenda is to have a roll call, and City Clerk Brenda Wolf, would you help us out?
Mayor Morse.
Present.
Commissioner Hassel.
Present.
Commissioner Reddy.
Present.
Commissioner Butler.
Present.
Commissioner Motta.
Here.
Mayor, we have 5 commissioners present. The quorum of 3 is met.
Okay. Thank you. If you would join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. The first item on the agenda this evening is public comments. If you are here to speak to something not on the agenda, this would be the opportunity for the public to speak, or anybody to speak. Seeing no one, we'll move on to the commissioner comments. John, why don't we start with you? Do you have any comments? No?
None tonight.
Okay. Wynn? You sure?
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you for everyone that turned out for the parade last Friday. The weather, we were just talking about it, was really good and then went really bad really fast. But it was still a huge turnout. Invite your friends, family to make Manhattan their destination for their holidays, even if it's just for a few days. There's lots going on downtown as well as in Aggieville and the rest of our community. Continue to donate food and other items to the Flint Hills Bread Basket. This is the time of year they really need, they have a lot of needs, as do a lot of other nonprofits in our communities. It is the season to give, so please be generous. Thank you.
I just want to say thanks to Commissioner Butler for all his work with him and his wife for decorating the fire engine for the commission to ride on. While we should have gotten the Best in Show and Best Use of Lights award, since the mayors were the ones making the decisions, we figured it probably wasn't a good idea to do that. But I think we're quite well represented with that, so appreciate your work on that.
It was so bright on the truck that we couldn't see the people along the side even. But the lighting was wonderful. I just want, we have had kind of been on a hiatus for 3 weeks with no meetings. So in the meantime, Manhattan High School has won their state championship. K-State has won the Big 12 championship. We have lots to celebrate. It's a great day for our community to have these wonderful successes, and we look forward to a repeat year next year, right? So if there are no other announcements, we'll proceed with the consent agenda. The consent agenda, on the consent agenda are those items of a routine and housekeeping nature, or those items which have previously been reviewed by the City Commission and may be approved in one motion. A commissioner may request an item be removed for separate discussion and considered immediately following the consent agenda. Comment from the public related to any item on the consent agenda is allowed. Each person will be limited to speaking once for up to 5 minutes. Are there any comments from the commissioners?
Yeah, I want to, on the appointments, I want to move item L, H through O to the beginning of the general agenda.
L, H,
Item L, H through O.
L, H, and O? I'm having trouble
No.
catching what you're saying.
Item L is appointments.
Yes, okay.
Now I
Oh,
want to
L.
move item 1, H through O.
Okay. And you want to move them to the general agenda?
Right.
Okay,
And A through G is good, like it is.
okay.
Okay, I just wanted to say on item J, next week, we typically have a work session, and we will be moving it to a special meeting, so it is a legislative meeting, which means votes will be taken, and boards, I believe, will be also discussed that evening. Did you want to add anything more to that, Ron?
Yeah, just for clarification, so it is a special meeting. We need the special meeting in order to have the executive session for my evaluation. That's the primary purpose of the special meeting. The board discussion item is a work session item.
Still a work
We're
session.
not asking for any action or anticipating any action by the governing body on that item.
Okay, well, I'm glad you clarified it for me, because I thought the entire meeting was going to be a legislative session.
So it's all a special meeting. The issue there is that we have to, if we put a specific deadline time frame on the work session and then had the special meeting started at a specific time, which we have to call for, we could have done it that way. It's hard to estimate those, didn't want to limit, didn't know how many people might show up, so it's all wrapped into the special meeting.
Okay, so it's still like a discussion?
Yes.
A discussion item. Okay, thank you.
I would just like to comment on item H, the grant with the Flint Hills Wellness Coalition Pathways to a Healthy Kansas initiative, and I'm really pleased to see this. It's exciting to have something just come forward. I know it takes a lot of work, and I am pleased that it's going to work out to add to the sidewalks and maybe, I'm not sure, everything, and enhance trail here in the community. And on item I, which is the back nine development, I will be voting no because I object to the commission giving city parking lots away for interests of one developer or two or whatever, but that's just my own thinking, and so I'm going to be consistent with that. We've had several of instances of giving parking lots away for $1 or nothing, so that's just going to be where I'm going to vote. I just wanted to explain it up front. So with that, is there anyone wishing to speak this evening in the public comments time? Please come forward if you do. Okay, seeing no one, I'll close public comments and ask for a motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda, except for the items that were moved to the general agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, and I will be voting no on item I. And so we have a motion and a second. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Hattasol,
Yes.
Commissioner Reddy,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Motta,
Yes.
Mayor Morse,
Yes, except for item I, and I will vote no on it.
motion carries 5-0 with the exception of item I-1, which carries 4-1.
Thank you. Okay. That's one way to move right through the agenda, is on the consent agenda. So the next item would be, we did have item 7, which is to consider items removed from the consent agenda before moving on. So at this point, Wynn, you made the request, so what is your issue?
Yep, what I'm concerned about is, we had talked earlier about eliminating both of those boards, the Special Alcohol Board and the Social Services Advisory Board. So it doesn't make sense to me to appoint people. I don't have any issues with any of the recommendations. But the point, my goal is we eliminate both those boards, we create a consolidated board, and we create some new bylaws. And we do that within the next 60 days. I mean, it's time to move on with this. And by appointing these people, then we're gonna have two boards, and then there'll be, people resisting change, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. So I don't wanna see anybody appointed. I wanna see the two boards disbanded. I know we're gonna talk about this next week, but it's not a voting thing. And so I think this just needs to be, not happen tonight, because I wanna see those two boards eliminated and the new one created, and I wanna see it done quickly.
I thought we just had discussed it. I'm not sure it was a discussion at that point. I don't know if we voted to dissolve or consolidate anything. I thought it was still a work in progress.
I think it's a work in progress, but there was 3 commissioners at that meeting that gave direction to go ahead with the consolidation. And, you know, I'm with Wynn. I don't want to appoint people who may or may not be comfortable with a combined board that we're going to, have later on. So I'm either, voting no or just voting to table this until we, finish up and come up with what that board is going to look like and what the bylaws are.
Well, as mayor, I felt like we have delayed this from our discussion in April and May. We've done nothing. And we have allocations of special alcohol and social services advisory board kinds of work that those boards need to do. And I didn't appoint them earlier because I didn't want to try to appoint somebody and then pull the rug out from under them 4 or 5 months later and say, oops, your board is gone. I don't want to do that. But I want us to have a process in place that works. So if we're not going to do this for 2024, then maybe we say we want to do it for 2025. But we have work that needs to be done and not just race through it and do it halfway. So that was my rationale in moving these forward. So it's...
I don't know about 2024, 25. 2023 is when we should be doing it.
That's true. I jumped a year, 2023.
And I agree with you. We've been dragging this out, and that's why I want to push the issue. Let's get let's get it changed. Because we seem to just have this resistance to make it happen. To me, it's pretty simple. And I base that on the fact, as John said, I thought 3 commissioners agreed to do that, and it's just being drug out. And it doesn't need to be. It needs to just be done. Let's move on.
Yeah, I would like us to see that, to combine it into one board, whatever you want to call it. And so I guess the first step of doing that would be to, is to kind of push the issue of this would be the first step, I guess, to make sure that we actually do something. And I don't know what kind of timeline we've got to be on that. I know they have to have the allocation sort of done by May or June, which means they probably start pretty soon here with their site visits and the applications. Rena, have we sent out, is there a deadline? What is the deadline, or do you know off the top of your head when they're supposed to have the applications back and stuff?
Good evening, Commissioners. We have not sent any applications out for 2024 funding requests. There has been conversation about revamping the application for both SSAB and on the Special Alcohol Fund side, and pending the decision of you all regarding whether or not they are going to remain independent or separate for the next calendar year, or if they are going to be combined. That would determine also what kind of application needed to be created.
And so right now, you're the liaison to both of those boards, right?
Correct, sir, and the plan is for the city manager's office to start working with those 2 in January, and I help with the transition.
Okay. Yeah, I was hoping, one of the things we wanted to try to do is have a few less meetings that you have to sit in on, and so if we're getting rid of both of them off of your plate, that's even better than one of them that you still have to liaise for, so. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
So, yeah, I'll vote to not appoint anybody so that we can have an interest in trying to move quickly on getting settling on some kind of a combined board.
Okay. We haven't.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we not appoint anyone to the Social Services Advisory Board or the Special Alcohol Funds Board.
Tonight, or at all. What is your time frame?
Should we
Until
move
the
to
new
table?
board is constituted or something?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So you want to deny it, or you want to table those items?
Just deny it.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Well, so much time has gone by that I was just ready to do something. Somebody's got to get off the point here. And I want to also respect these people. So I will get back in touch with each one of them and let them know what the city commission has decided. So what is it you've decided? What you've decided is you're not doing appointments tonight, or you're not doing appointments, period, to either one of these boards. And so what's the next step?
Dissolve the boards. Can I make that motion tonight?
The motion on the appointments is to approve or deny. So
Right.
that's the first thing, would be to deny these specific appointments, these individuals, that they can return in a different form in the future. So that would be the first thing, just to deny these individuals. You don't have to do them by name, but just deny the appointments
Right.
in those items, rather than a motion to deny all appointments. The
Right.
way, yeah. In terms of a motion to dissolve the boards, so those are gonna take one's established by an ordinance and one's by a resolution. So we're gonna have to bring those forward. I don't know if what your motion, I would recommend that next week, if you would like to discuss that we would give you the form of that action, because you're gonna have to either repeal a resolution or amend an ordinance in order to do that. A motion to dissolve is more like direction to staff to bring those items back to you.
Okay. Well, this should be direction. I mean, we've been waiting long enough on that, is my opinion.
Well, we just are in the process of passing something that says what December 13th meeting is what the two agenda items are. So now did we just add one, is my question.
It's already listed as a discussion item.
We had
For
planned on
advisory
discussing these two boards during the December 13th
Okay.
meeting. Part of our initial recommendation was going to be to make some of those efficiency changes that we had been discussing related to so many meetings, public hearings, site visits, and then looking at combining the boards in 2024. So we'll need to, since there's a majority that wants to combine them this year in preparation for the 2024 budget process, we'll need to work through that and see what it'll look like, because we'll need to, as Katie mentioned, you'll have to repeal those resolutions and ordinances. You'll have to draft a new one, creating a new board that appoints new members. You'll have to find new members for that board. What's the makeup of it? So it's going to be a few conversations over the next couple weeks and months to develop that and create that body and what its charge is.
Okay, so we have a plan is the point, right? We're not just dropping this and not doing anything else. We're going to do something. I think the commission is just growing impatient generally at the lack of action.
Yeah, we will say dissolving two boards and then creating a new one is going to be a process that won't happen by a simple motion. We're going to have a couple of discussions with the city commission on what the board is and what the charge is and the makeup of it, the number of members. We're going to have to go out and find members, because it's not necessarily as simple as taking the existing members and creating one new one. We're going to have to talk through how it's going to be to create that board, and then we need to do all that in time to open up an application for those funds like we would be already, and have those applications completed by those agencies and reviewed by this new board by the beginning of your budget process in May.
So I'm going to, I probably will vote for the appointments, because that's going to be how we're going to be voting, is still a yes or no, mainly because that's still a process. I'm assuming these boards are thinking they're still going to be, will still be meeting until we get rid of them, and we won't be able to get rid of them right away. So I'm thinking, when is their next meeting? Do they have meetings in December or in January?
Their next meeting is sometime in January, and
In
it's all
January.
based on the conversation you all have next week and the direction you provide us.
Okay.
So
I'm
they
gonna-
have not been scheduled
Sure.
at this time.
I'm just going to go ahead and vote on these, because not knowing where the process is going to go, I think they should probably, probably send an email or something saying tentatively they're still on this board unless otherwise notified. because we don't know, I don't know how long the rest of the process is going to take or whatever it might be. But I also want to make sure that if these people were interested, that they may have the option of joining a different, whatever the new consolidated board might look like, so that they don't feel like their appointments were rejected, but so much as they're appointed until the new one is also formed, if they want to still continue being on one of these advisory boards.
Commissioners, if you would like, you could withdraw the motion to deny and table it till January 3rd, which would allow us the opportunity to get the feedback that you wanted. We could still withdraw it from the 3rd or take the vote then. That would allow you to give the feedback on the 13th and perhaps even have a form of what comes next on the 20th. That's one option. You can still deny him as well, of course, if that's what you prefer.
I already made the motion. I want to make the point, just not appoint them, because it's just, you're putting obstacles in the way. And, you know, as Jared said, you know, it's going to take forever. No, get it done in the next 6 weeks. It's simple. It's not that hard. You just simply kill these two boards, you create a new one, and you put the same application process up there. You want to be on the new consolidated board, put in your name. But we need to move on. We've been messing with this thing way too long in my mind. So
I'll
I'd like to
second
call
the
the
motion
question.
to
I put it
decline.
out there. We need to take a vote on this.
Second,
We already have a
Okay, so-
motion and a second.
So the question is a yes vote to, what is the, to not approve these, is a yes vote for his motion or a no vote?
Yes means they don't get approved.
Okay.
If it's simpler for the clerk, you could state it, Commissioner, you could rephrase it as a motion to approve and then vote against it. Typically, you're not supposed to have a motion in the negative because of exactly the confusion that you've asked for. If that simplifies it, you could make the motion and then you vote no in order to decline them.
You want me to say, you know, the motion is to not approve?
To approve.
The motion would be to
Then vote no.
approve, but you vote no, and that gives your
Okay,
motion,
got
so
it.
everyone knows yes or no, and they don't have that confusion.
All right,
Commissioner
got it.
Hattasol.
Okay. So I need to vote no, that's what you're telling me. Okay.
Yes.
So the motion then is to, you know, approve the appointments L, H through O.
second,
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Is there public, oh,
I'd rather have tabled it, but that's fine.
is there, does anyone wish to make public comments? This would be the opportunity. Okay, seeing no one come forward, I will close the public comment section and proceed to ask the city clerk to call the roll.
Commissioner Reddy,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
No.
Commissioner Motta,
no.
Mayor Morse,
Yes.
Commissioner Hattasol.
No.
Motion fails 3-2.
Okay, thank you very much for that discussion. We got off dead center, I guess, and we're moving on. So, next on the agenda would be a public hearing. And it is to consider amending the townhomes at Miller Ranch planned unit development for signage.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. Stephanie Peterson, Director of Community Development. This evening, we have for you an amendment to the townhomes at Miller Ranch PUD for the installation of a modified sign. The location.
Is your mic working, Stephanie?
Pull it up there.
Doesn't
where you
sound
can-
like it.
Pull it up there where you can, come up.
I don't know.
I don't think it's
All right,
on.
how about now? So the location of the townhomes, it's at the northwest corner of Amherst and Miller Parkway. They're more commonly referred to as Brianna Court. The previous design and the sign that was approved with the initial PUD is the picture that's right here, 4 feet tall, about 2 feet wide. What the HOA is wanting to do is to install a sign that you see here. It's 6 feet wide, which is why we are needing to make this as a modification to the PUD, because the square footage of the sign exceeds that was originally put in the PUD. We do show where the proposed sign would be located, which is the same location as the original one. This did go before the Manhattan Urban Area Planning Board. It was approved unanimously, and there were no public comments. So the requested action before you tonight is to approve amending 2 different ordinances related to this PUD, along with the final development plan for the townhomes. And I will stand for any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your presentation. Does the commission have any comments or questions of staff?
Nope, that seems pretty simple to me. I don't have a problem
Straightforward?
with it.
Okay, all right. I will open, I think, we have a public hearing here that we need to conduct. So if any member of the public wishes to come forward to speak at the public hearing, just to comment, there's nobody here except staff. Anyway, just to open the public hearing, pause for a bit, and close the public hearing. I will now close the public hearing. That if the commission has any further comments, this doesn't seem to me it seems like something, this little neighborhood wants some identifying a name, and so please come forward. So at this point, we're ready for a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve the first reading of an ordinance amending ordinance number 6254 and 6569, and the final development plan of the Townhomes at Miller Parkway Residential PUD to permit an enlarged and modified neighborhood identification sign based on the findings in the staff report and the recommendations of the Manhattan Urban Area Planning Board.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. If there are no further comments, I'll ask the city clerk to, did you have one, Yusha?
No.
Nope, okay. I'll ask Brenda to call the roll.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Motta,
Yes.
Mayor Morse,
Yes,
Commissioner Hassel,
Yes?
Commissioner Reddy.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
okay. The next item on the agenda is the general agenda item to consider a fee in lieu stormwater process. And this will be we would approve the first reading of an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances by establishing a process by which a development may pay a fee in lieu of the requirement to provide a detention of stormwater runoff caused by the development. And here with us is Brian Johnson, the city engineer.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Brian Johnson, City Engineer. Again, this is fee in lieu detention for the downtown east and west watershed. And this is an item, actually, this is a follow-up to a couple of agreements that we have completed over the last year to year and a half. And when we did those agreements, you had asked us to come back with a formal policy. That way we're not doing these one-off agreements between the city and developers. And it helps set policy for staff. It also helps set expectations for what we want from development in the community, and then what we expect for developers as they assemble properties to do development. So again, the downtown east and west master plan watershed study was completed in 2015 and identified 16 major CIP projects to reduce flooding in downtown. In 2017, with the adoption of the urban corridor district and the increase in building size and lot coverage, a review of the area was initiated. The study looked at 3 scenarios: existing conditions of the watershed, redevelopment out of the watershed, and then redevelopment in the watershed with the CIPs completed. And again, for your information, this area in the black hatch is in the Uber corridor, so it's allowed for 100% coverage. So think along North Manhattan with the M1 and M2 apartments and how they've developed. And then this area can develop to that type of density. The blue area is the traditional MFRO or downtown district where you can build up to 85% impervious coverage, and that's this blue area here. Both of these areas then were put into that 2017 study to look at, as time goes on and we develop out and we get to this density, if we get to this density, what will that do downstream? So 3rd and Kearney, 4th and Bluemont, all the way down to Leavenworth and 4th Street down in those areas. So that's what that 2017 study was looking at. It was a follow-up. Again, drainage areas, so this is the downtown east and west drainage areas. As you can see, a ton of sub-drainage areas. We talk about it as 2 drainage areas. There's actually multiple drainage areas, a lot of sub-drainage areas. This here is where the east and west downtown watersheds come together, and along that line, of course, is where you have watershed jump, which is the problem we have at 14th and Anderson, where it overflows that watershed, then runs into the east watershed. So in that study, we looked at these specific points, and we applied that criteria of build out, and then what would that do to these areas specifically as time goes on and we develop. I got a better table, but as you can see from some of these points we looked at, 4th and Bluemont specifically, and then down on 3rd Street, with full development, full build out, we only add about 1 inch to 1.25 inches of water surface elevation. It tells us that this watershed is very mature. It's been built out already. There's not a lot of impervious areas left. But if you look at the CIPs, when those CIPs are completed, you see 2, 2.5, 2 3/4 foot drops in that water surface elevation. So that told us really what we need to do in this watershed is not detain. We can't over detain in this watershed. It's too flat and there's not enough available areas. We need to build those CIPs to get the water out of the watershed quicker. So again, these are those points shown in the map, and you can see the rise and the fall depending on which column you're in. So we'll just take 4th and Bluemont, for example. If we build out in that watershed complete with no detention, we only raise water surface elevation 0.04 feet. So that's a 1/2 inch. 0.04 feet is 1/2 inch. If we build those CIPs out, we lower water surface elevation 1.63 feet. So again, those CIP projects really lower those water surface elevations in those 150-year events. And that's where we need to aim for. That's what we need to strive to, is to generate the funding in order to build those CIPs out. And that's what this fee in lieu does. Instead of asking a developer to detain whatever minimal amount of runoff that they're sending away, we take those dollars and we go build these CIPs. So we use those dollars as the best value to go finish the CIP projects. So again, here's the downtown watershed. We've completed item number 2. This is one of the betterments for the levee. Item number 3 is under design, and it will bid as soon as the levee project is done. And then we're really focusing on 4, and we're focusing on 5, which is where those major complaints are and those deep waters are when it does flood. Obviously 8 and 9 go all the way up to Campus Creek and address those overflows up there. Again, the fee in lieu policy, currently detention is required to account for any additional stormwater on a lot. Existing flooding areas aren't addressed. I can't make somebody over detain. I can't make somebody go and reduce the water coming off of their lot from what they have today. That's not in our policy. Downtown watershed is fully mature, and over detaining is difficult and expensive. Again, you're in really flat areas. There's not a lot of public space there. If we recall, about a month ago, we did an over detention partnership with K-State. That was a great example of how you can over detain, because you're outside of the watershed. You have vertical drop through the watershed, and you can detain in areas that make the most bang for the buck, that upper third. Watershed is extremely flat, which also limits detaining. It's hard to detain water when you don't have vertical depth, when you don't have vertical elevation. Per this policy, the approval shall be by the Public Works Department after we review the impacts to the watershed, both locally and globally. Again, Public Works staff will make that decision whether this makes a difference in the watershed or not. So we may still be detaining water in certain locations based on if there's a flooding issue in that location. This would be for all of those other locations. Again, the developer can still choose to detain if they so choose, if that's what they want to do. If they want to detain on their own lot, that's certainly what they can do instead of paying into the fee. That would be up to their decision. All funds shall be stored in the stormwater fund for those future CIPs. So these dollars, just like the levy surcharge that we're doing, those dollars are peeled off of that stormwater fund and they're put into a separate account. So those funds couldn't be used for anything else besides those projects identified in the downtown east and west watershed study. That's in the ordinance.
Brian?
Yeah.
And And that would sort of be above and beyond the normally scheduled.
That's correct.
Bond payment. We're not gonna use that to make the bond payment. It'll be sort of additional principal, probably.
You could use it to buy down, you could use it to pay interest on that debt. We didn't go that far, but you could certainly use it as a cash down payment, there's no doubt about that.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Especially with interest rates where they're setting today. Those buy downs are gonna be important. In the future, we've had some questions about other watersheds and whether they'd be candidates also. Right now, we don't have enough data on the other watersheds to say whether or not this would be a good policy in those watersheds. We can, as we go forward, we can look at those other watersheds and see if there's certain specific locations close enough to the stream or to the outfall where this may be beneficial to both parties, but we can't say that for certain now. That's something in a future CIP or future study that we'd have to review. So with that, I'll stand for questions.
So the magic number is $2.80 or something?
Yeah,
And
yep.
and that is $2.80 per,
Additional square foot of impervious area.
okay. You
So,
don't try to take the amount of water divided by.
no,
rain
no,
Added by.
we're not doing differential
pi r
equations,
squared.
no.
It's strictly however much new impervious square feet compared to what was
Correct.
there when you,
If I have a 50,000 square foot lot and I have 10,000 square feet of driveway and house today and I want to go to 50,000 tomorrow, I take 40,000 times 280 and that's my number.
100,000, 112,000.
$100,000, yep.
Okay, but for the most, yeah, there's not gonna, and if the lot is, for some reason, like a house that was torn down and is now a green grass lot, when they start over with something, do they start with a zero?
So we would base that on when the ordinance was passed, what was there. We wouldn't base that on, if I tear down my house for 6 months and a day, then I'm outside of this policy.
Yeah.
That's not how this policy is intended to be done.
So like, well, okay.
I know where you're talking about,
That's
yes.
fine.
I was gonna say, this is probably better for the developer and probably for the downtown area as well, I would assume.
I don't know if it's better for the developer because I don't know what the cost per cubic foot is of underground detention right now. We don't do a lot of underground detention because it's unbelievably expensive. We try to pick areas where we get better bang for our buck. I would say that we're probably slightly under market value, but we're pretty darn close. And as time goes on, we are going to adjust that, just like we adjust our stormwater fees every year. So underground detention, you know, that inflation is 7% this year. We're going to come back next year and say this fee should go up by 7%. So that will fluctuate also with our stormwater fee.
Do we ever say, do you ever consider maybe some development should probably not happen in some areas because it does make much more harder on the stormwater systems and floods? It just seems like everything is so compact.
Yeah, it is.
And,
Absolutely.
it's hard to build that infrastructure because it's gonna go, water's gonna
Yeah.
go somewhere.
Yeah. If it's zoned for what it's, want to be, I don't know that we could tell them no. I mean, they have a zoning district and a right to increase or put improvements on their property. So I don't know that I could tell them no by a stormwater.
Right.
What I could do is maybe encourage them to do some more detention on site or some green fields or maybe shed water to a different place. We've done that before where we've encouraged developers to shed water to a different watershed or to a different location because I have an inlet over here that's maybe big enough to handle your overflow, but not over there. So we have had those conversations and developers have been very good about listening to our input and helping us get there.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm looking for, is that communication, so developers know what they're going into and other alternatives for them. And also, of course, the fee should not be a surprise.
Yeah.
If anyone comes there, they should know what that is
Absolutely.
going towards, because it's different than other areas in the community.
Yeah, and this is just another tool in the toolbox. I mean, detention is still possible, shedding water to a different watershed is still possible. This is just one more tool that, at the end of the day, if it benefits us to take the dollars and go build something instead of trying to detain in this little pocket, we'd be better off going and taking those dollars.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
I think we know that this community will continue to develop, and the impervious surface
Yeah.
will increase in these two watersheds.
It's not going down.
No, and K-State hasn't built out yet. I mean, we even have infill in the city where we can expect more.
Yeah.
Because we're
We're growing, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, we're growing, we're adding runoff all the time.
And we purposely zone this to a higher district because we want more people living here. We want people living here that aren't driving to campus, aren't driving to Aggieville, aren't driving to downtown. We want less people on the road so that I don't have to expand Anderson Avenue and I don't have to expand Claflin. So there is a benefit to having more people here.
I think it would be important for us to know what the projected income, and that's what you gave us, is this
Correct.
$27 million over
Yeah.
a period of time.
If it fully builds out, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, how long that takes, everybody's got a crystal ball on development, but in theory, yeah, that's the number that you could reach.
I don't know what page, the resolution, very last real sentence says, a listing of projects approved for fee in lieu of detention. The fees received and expenditures made shall be provided to the governing body periodically and upon the governing body request. I'd like to make that an annual kind of a report.
That's what we bring forth for
This
you.
is so much money and it's outside our purview. And so I think it would be important to have some kind of a report that we're able to just, I don't expect us to have a lot of input, but from year to year to year, I do think it would be instructive for us to see how this in lieu of system is performing and if it's accomplishing what is intended.
Well, we're not going to get rich on this deal.
No.
Right.
No.
But it's not like it's going to generate $1 million a year. It's going to generate a couple $100,000 maybe on a good year. So it'll help. Everything helps. Plus, I was thinking part of the, wasn't one of the 12B or one of those apartment buildings on the north side of Bluemont
Yes.
had flooding in their lower level because the underground detention flooded part of it. Is that something that, just out of curiosity, I'm sure you heard about that from
Yes.
what?
Many times.
Yeah, is that something that reoccurrence of flooding of the building, was that a solvable problem to where did something go wrong that happened, or did the thing not function like it's supposed to? Was it undersized? Was it just an act of God? Is something could be done so that wouldn't happen again
Sure.
for that, because of that underground detention we asked them to do?
Well, again, this is part of the problem with underground detention is typically it's so shallow that if you have any overflow, you're on the first floor because it's not very deep. It's right at the bottom of the pavement section or right below the parking lot. So that's part of the problem with underground detention. The other problem from a staff perspective is, how do I know it's working? I mean, I can't go out there and cut a hole in the parking lot and look down and make sure it's working okay. So there's issues with performance too over time. A typical detention pond, you can go out there in a rainstorm and see if it's working. The underground's a little bit different. It's a little bit different animal. And again, that's why underground is not what everybody wants to do. It's really a last resort. And as far as the coming back before you, that's what we do in June, and then when we set rates in December, we bring back all of those financials. You see them, you see the project list out to 2030, and we'll add a line item for fee in lieu also.
You will have.
Yeah, there'll be a separate line item, correct. It has to go into its own account, so we'll
Yeah.
generate a line item.
Because everything about this is totally under the Director of Public Works. The city administration isn't as overseeing it like the Director of Public Works makes all the decisions according to this. So I'm asking how it will disappear from our purview, and I want to be sure that
Sure.
we have some oversight, some knowledge about how it's working.
Sure. We'll add that to our June and
Okay.
October presentations.
I just think an annual report with,
Sure.
would be beneficial. And so in year 2, we can compare it to year 1. I think that's the minimum.
See what that growth rate is,
The
yep.
minimum we could ask for is an accountability about the dollars.
Yep. And then at those meetings too, we'll talk about what percentage increase we think that the construction market is.
It'll get lost in the whole of the June
Shuffle, yeah.
report, unless there's something specific.
Yeah, there's a lot of information, don't disagree.
Commissioners, you have further questions?
No, I think it's a good plan, you know, in my mind, you know, like you already said, those underground detention ponds don't work as intended, you know, the ones that we built that are, you know, that you can go look at, those are just fine. And taking that money and investing it into the long list of CIP projects is gonna provide a better benefit for the city as a whole
Better
and
bang
the
for the buck.
developer. So this is the right way to go.
It's about value for those dollars.
It definitely is.
Absolutely.
I don't think we've ever found a way to reduce the reliance on the CIP, so this is the first.
One more funding source,
One way,
yes.
this is
Yep.
first try. Other commissioner questions? Okay. Thank you, Brian. We
Thank you.
appreciate your presentation. All right. With that, I would open the public comment portion, and I don't know. He's with us, okay. Are there there's no member of the public here, but I will open the public comment section just to go through the formality. I will pause and close the public comment period. So, Rob, did you have any question? You just showed up. We haven't seen you, so do you have any thoughts?
No, Mayor Rob Ott, Director of Public Works, appreciate your comments about the separating out the report, and that's certainly something we can do. So just listening in tonight,
Okay.
obviously remote, so
All right.
thank you.
Thank you for joining us. And,
Okay, I'll make the motion that we approve first reading of an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances by establishing a process by which a development may pay a fee in lieu of a requirement to provide a detention of stormwater runoff caused by the development.
Second.
all right, we have a motion and a second. Are there other comments? Okay. City Clerk Brenda Wolf, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Motta,
Yes.
Mayor Morse,
Yes?
Commissioner Hassel,
Yes.
Commissioner Reddy,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you for attending tonight. At this point, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn the December 6, 2022 City Commission meeting.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Brenda Wolf, would you call the roll?
Mayor Morse,
Yes?
Commissioner Hassel,
Yes.
Commissioner Reddy,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Motta.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
We are adjourned. Thank you.